Hi everybody and welcome to the What's New webinar for the latest version of Mission Control. Version 1.60 is being released onto the App Exchange as of the 18th of February, and we've got a massive amount of new functionality coming in this new release. So in terms of what's new, as I say, this is really a bumper release. It's got a massive amount of new functionality. I will highlight that the first feature that we're going to go into detail on, resource forecasting, is being released as a beta version, and it will become GA as part of the Q2 release as we work to integrate it with other existing features within Mission Control. So we've also got a new Kanban board coming that will allow you to manage your checklist items in a Kanban board. We have a new billing event generator, so a lot of new functionality coming around being able to invoice differently for different milestones on one project. We have a new path component that can be added to the project, milestone, or action that will give you the ability to see a summary of the status of all of the records underneath that. So, for example, if I'm looking at the project and I'm viewing that path component, I will see the status of all of the individual milestones that relate to that project. We have some additional functionality that is further enhancing the auto generation functionality from the opportunity to be able to create projects. We've also added in some additional enhancements based on customer feedback around checklist items and time logs. We have also updated the Create Actions page to allow you to have custom fields, and you can also use it at a milestone level as well. A few additions to the Gantt chart, and we've made a couple of changes to the project overview, particularly on the time logs tab, just changing how we're representing the time log data, and then a few minor enhancements that we'll cover off shortly. Okay, so looking at the actual detail of each of these features, so role forecasting. So this is a really big feature that's being introduced here, and it's, as I say, it's being released as a beta. As we work to integrate it with other features within the system as well. So the resource forecasting really comprises of a number of features. So you can manage your role forecasting at an opportunity or a project level. We're adding in new objects that will allow you to track like a high level forecast. You can break that down into daily allocations, and also another object that will be tracking all of the actuals. There's a component that allows you to create those forecasts and adjust those allocations, and a new page that will take some of the functionality away from the scheduler to provide you with a holistic view of your capacity planning across role forecasts, actions, and holidays. In addition to that, we also have the enhancements around role availability. So what this is providing you with a feature that lets you specify how many hours per day each person works, how many days per week they work, and as well as that, you can also specify how many, what their billable target is over a specific period of time. So, for example, a brand new team member to the business might be working 40 hours a week, but their billable target while they're ramping up into their new position might be different for the first 3 months than it is once they're out of that training period. So you can have different role availability records to track both the hours per day and the overall billable target. So the hours distributor is an existing feature that is currently accessible via the resource assignment wizard. It allows you to go in and manually distribute the hours across the duration of an action. That has basically been enhanced to work alongside the role forecasts and role allocations. So we'll dive into the detail of this, but this allows you to distribute those hours across those actions as required. But you can now access that hours distributor at the project level, the milestone level, the action level for an individual role, and also for a holiday. So as I mentioned, we've got a new Kanban coming in that allows you to track your the status of checklists. So very much like the whiteboard does for actions, the checklist board does the exact same thing, but operating at an individual checklist item level. The billing event generator. So this is a new page that is accessible from the project if you are controlling how you're doing your billing at an individual milestone level. So we currently at the project level have billing types of fixed price plus expenses and time and materials, and whichever one of those you select at the project level gets applied to all of the milestones on that project. We're now introducing the ability to vary the billing based on the individual milestones. And the billing event generator lets you manually generate a billing event across all of those milestones. So some might be needing progress payments, some might be needing time and materials for the work that's been delivered. So the status path component, as I say, this is a Lightning component that you can add to your Lightning pages. You can add it to the project, and it will show you a summary of the status values of all related milestones. Add it to the milestone, it will show you the status values of actions. Add it to the action, it will show you the status value of checklist items. So order generation, we've added in two new generation methods. So you can now add milestones and actions based on the product quantity. So for example, if I have a product and the quantity is 3, it will add that milestone 3 times. We've also added in the ability to, we've added in a new object called product milestones. So rather than specifying one particular milestone template to be used when selling a particular product on an opportunity, you can now associate multiple milestones for that product. And we've also introduced the cloning of budget items. So if the project template has budget items, they'll also be cloned as part of that auto generation process. Checklist items, couple of enhancements there. We've introduced the ability to track baseline dates at the checklist item level, really just to mirror what's happening at the action, milestone, and project levels. We've also made some changes to the hours roll-up setting. This was a feature that we introduced I think about 18 months ago. We've taken some feedback from customers and just modified, or at least given you the option to modify how that works. And not everyone wants that rolling up and overriding the action hours. So we've added in a setting that allows you to do that. We've also added some enhancements to the auto creation of contributors. Previously, it would only create the contributor if the checklist item had hours assigned to it. Now, if you add a checklist item, even if the hours are null or they're 0, the contributor record will also be created. Time log enhancements, just added in, again, a couple of settings that allow you to prevent time logs from being submitted against a project. We've also added in another setting that allows you to prevent people who are not assigned as either action owners or checklist item owners or contributors on that project. And then there's we've added in a third setting that allows you to control how and when hours are rolled up from the time log to the hours completed field on the action. So again, we'll get into the detail of that as we go through. Create actions page, as I mentioned, the ability to access that from a milestone. So that's going to be beneficial to customers who have large projects, because when you're trying to edit existing actions on a large project, the create actions page can only load a maximum of 100 records. So if across the entire project, you've got more than 100 records, you can't open that up in edit mode for existing records. Now what you would be able to do is go down to an individual milestone and access the records from there. You also have the ability to specify up to 5 custom fields on that Create Actions page as well. Gantt chart, few enhancements here at customer requests. We have added in a field that allows you to specify a name for a milestone deadline. So previously it would just say milestone deadline. Now you can specifically describe what that deadline is. And you can also toggle on and off the progress percentage, and we've added in the ability to expand and collapse checklist items within actions, which we'll demonstrate as we go through. So as I mentioned earlier, the time log tab on the project overview and the customer read-only page has been changed, really just changing the time logs were displayed in the timeline. We've now just put them into a table, so it shows you more valuable information to give you some flexibility around what information you display. We've added in a field set for the project overview and a field set for the client read-only page, so you can pick and choose which fields from the time log get displayed in the table. And then some minor enhancements. We have introduced a feature that is you can toggle on or off on the control pad of the console as to whether when a holiday is created, you can now automatically reschedule actions. So for example, if I have a 3-day action from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I put a PTO request in for Tuesday, that action would automatically be rescheduled out to cover that non-working day, so it would run through to Thursday. We've also added in some notifications on the control pad. So there are a number of automated processes that you can schedule from the control pad in Mission Control. For example, the daily digest. So they get scheduled in context of a particular user. Let's say that user leaves a business, their user becomes inactive, so those automated processes will no longer work. So what we've added in is a notification to make it obvious when you are looking at the control pad if one of those automated processes has been scheduled by a now inactive user. So giving you an indication that you need to reactivate that with a current user. Made a minor modification to the project status report around the actual project detail for customers who aren't using the custom fields section. Those empty columns will now be hidden. We've added in field sets for the project clone page and the milestone clone page. We've added in some new fields that will, so the fields already existed on the action that gave you projected hours indication. Those fields have also been added on the project and milestone. Milestone status, so we have an automated process where you can automatically change the milestone status, and that will automatically change any actions relating to it. So for example, I put my milestone on hold, it goes down and updates all of the non-complete actions. It will change those to hold as well. Previously, if I then took my milestone off hold, so back into planned or in progress, it wouldn't update the actions, so all of the actions would remain on hold. Now what it will do is actually reset the actions based on their previous status if you have field history tracking enabled. And then super minor enhancement to the issue log and issue manager, just following on from the previous release where you can now associate hours that you're submitting on your time logs, you can associate them to issues. You've now got the visibility of the hours completed fields on both of those components. Okay, so obviously, as I say, there's a lot to get through, so let's jump in and start taking a look at all of these new features. Okay, so we're going to start by taking a look at resource forecasting. And so resource forecasting really combines three major components of the release. It's the role forecasting, it's the role availability, and the hours distributor. And just as a reminder, all of these features are being released as a beta feature. Obviously, what we strongly encourage you to provide your feedback to us, and we will be working to finalize this functionality as part of the next release, where it will become generally available in quarter two. So during the beta period, you may experience known limitations where the role forecasting information may not be added to something like the timesheet or the scheduler, for example. So what we're going to start with is just to say, if you don't want to utilize this resource forecasting functionality, it's you pretty much just don't need to do anything. It's something that you turn on rather than need to turn off. If you do want to start using it, what we're going to do is walk through role forecasting, then we'll take a look at role availability, and then we'll take a look at the hours distributor. Now, if you do want to start using this functionality, you'll need to come to the control pad. Scroll down, you'll find a new tile here for role allocation automation settings. So there's a few things that you need to enable. So this batch class will automatically generate role allocations for you. So when you create a new role forecast record, or when you create a new action record, the role allocation records underneath those will be automatically generated for you. You can set your frequency. You can have that running every minute, every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and so on. Some of this work is going to be done via an Apex trigger, and some of it is going to be done via an Apex batch class. You can specify the limit here. Now, I've got this set to 5 purely for demonstration purposes, but basically, the recommendation would be have it set to something like 100. So what that means is if it's trying to generate role allocation records for a period of time less than 100 days, it will do it via the trigger. But just to accommodate Salesforce governor limits, we'll be looking at you'll be able to specify a limit, and if the duration of the role forecast or action exceeds that limit, it will do it via the Apex batch class instead. You can also auto-generate role actuals, and you can also activate a daily schedule that will keep your role availability management up to date. And so obviously, customers who have got existing data, you might want to be able to generate role allocation records and role actual records for your historical data. So you can so all of this would need to be turned on, and then you can activate this historical generation. And so you activate it, you choose the date in the past that you want to go back to, and then click save. Recommendation is that if you've got any records in there, just make sure there are no validation rules that might get invoked with legacy data there. So what that would do is create role allocations and role actuals for your actions, time logs, and holidays. Okay, so once all of that is activated, obviously we'll have those processes running in the background, and as you're creating role forecasts or you're creating actions, your role allocation records will be created in the background for you. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about role forecasting. So what we've done is added in an object called role forecast. You can see here I've got it available on my opportunity. It's also available on the project as well. So what this allows you to do is really like do a soft booking for a resource. So I know I might need Mick over the next 6 months on a project. I just don't necessarily know the detail of what he's going to be doing, so I can't create all of the actions to book his time out. But what I can do is create one role forecast that says I need him from this date to this date for this amount of hours. what we're going to be looking at here is, so we can also use that same role forecasting functionality on an opportunity level. So we can be saying, right, we've obviously got deals in our pipeline where we're trying to close win customers. And whilst we don't need a project in the system yet, we do want to have visibility of what potential resource demands we might have if we actually win these deals. So again, it's not creating the detail of a project. It's simply saying, I need this type of person for this amount of hours over this period of time. What this will also allow you to do is actually assemble the like the revenue and cost figures for the use of those role forecasts as well. So what I'm going to do from my opportunity, I'm just going to jump on to my manage forecast component. So over on the left-hand side, what I can do is go and search for the type of resource that I need, specify how many hours or the percentage of their billable availability that I need, plus their non-billable, when I need them to start, and for how many working days I would need them. So first of all, I'm going to be searching. I'm just going to select myself. I can also select a specific skill that I'm going to need to do. Alternatively, if I know the skill but don't necessarily know the person, I can select the skill, and then that will show me the roles that have that skill assigned to them. So I'm going to be getting added here. I'm not just going to specify hours on this example. I'm going to say I need 50% of this person's billable availability. And I also need 10% of their non-billable. I need them to start on the 14th, and I'm going to need them for 10 working days. So that working days, what that will do when I add this person is it will go off and look at any non-working days, whether that's weekends, holidays, PTO, and it will establish the end date based on how many working days we've got available starting from the 14th. So what this does is creates a forecast record for this resource. It's gone off and found out how many hours per week this person works, how many days, what their billable target is. So I've specified that I need this person for 50% of their billable target. So I work 40 hours per week. I'm expected to do 80% of my hours should be billable. Therefore, that's 32 hours per week. If I'm asking for 50% of that, therefore it's 16 hours a week that I'm requesting. Based on the fact that I asked for 10 working days, it's worked out that I'm needed for 32 hours. Plus I'm needed for more or less two non-billable. So it tells me the total forecast. Obviously, it's gone off and looked at the working days, accommodated any potential holidays or non-working days, and it's pulled in my rate values from my role record. So what I'm getting here is an insight into how much revenue we're likely to earn as a result of me doing this work, what cost we're going to incur, what the profit and loss is, and what the margin is. So behind that, what we get are individual allocation records. So for each individual day, and I could be doing this on days or weeks. So for each individual day, what we've got is a role allocation record. So from my 32 hours, it's evenly distributed this time across each day. What I can do now is come in and modify this. So I can say, right, maybe I'm front loading this or back loading the effort. So I can manually adjust these as required, or I can leave it as it is and just save that. And then that creates the role forecast and the role allocation records. So obviously the idea being that you're able to build out multiple role forecasts for multiple different resources. For example, you might need Colin on for the start of the project during February. Then he might get allocated to something else, and then he might be needed back in May to check everything has been delivered as per specified. So adding all of those role forecasts against the individual roles, you're able to make a soft forecast booking against them. So that component is also available from a project record as well. So obviously, as you're building a project, you might have some actions, but you don't necessarily know that you haven't got 6 months worth of actions defined on the project. You might just have the next 2 or 3 sprints planned out. But what you can do is also you can say, right, I need Colin for 180 days for this amount of time as a role forecast. So obviously you can then have a scenario where a project has both role forecast records and action records. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to take a look at is the role availability manager. So I'm just going to click through to a role record. So we've added in some additional fields on the role to specify how many hours per day each person works, which obviously accounts for the total hours per week. As I mentioned earlier, you might have a scenario where someone used to work part-time, they've now gone full-time, or they're in a ramp-up period where they've just started with the business, and you're not expecting them to hit as high a billable target as you will once they're fully trained in 6 months' time. So if you want to have different role availability records for this role, you can do that via the manage availability page here. So if I just load that in. So what I'm able to do is specify like the start date and the end date. So I'm going to say, okay, well, from the 1st of January through to the end of March, I'm going to be working full time, so 8 hours every day. I don't work weekends, but because I'm learning my job, my billable target might be 25%. So I'm going to activate that one, but then on the 1st of April, I'm expected to be fully ramped up. So then for the rest of the year, I'm going to be again working 8 hours a day, but my billable target will increase, and I'll be expected to do 80% billable. So I save those. So I've now got those 2 different role availability records. The active one has updated my role record, so I can see now my billable target is 25%. And going back to the control pad, one of the automated processes that we scheduled was the ability for the role availability records to be automatically updated. So as soon as we move into the 1st of April, my role availability that is currently active will be deactivated, and then the new one will be activated. So that process will allow you to keep your records up to date automatically. So obviously these figures are used when we're looking at the role forecasting, the role utilization, and so on. So we're also going to take a look at the hours distributor. So if I go to an existing project, so what we've got is we're always able to use the hours distributor at the individual action level. It did have some limitations on it, which we've removed as part of this piece of work. So previously, you were able to manually adjust the distribution of the effort. So for example, if I had one action, it was spanning 2 weeks from Monday 1 week through to Friday the following week. It might be 20 hours, let's say it might be 40 hours of effort. So what it would do is just evenly distribute that across the 10 days. So it's going to assume I'm doing 4 hours every single day. Now that might not be the case, because I might be doing 8 hours for the first 2 or 3 days, then nothing while the customer's looking at something, and then I might pick it up at the end. So you're able to use the hours distributor to unevenly distribute that effort. The limitation was you could only use it if the action was less than 60 days in duration, and if you rescheduled the action, that distribution was overridden and it needed to be redone. So the hours distributor now uses that new role allocation record. So all of those records will, if we reschedule the action, the role allocation records will reschedule with it. Any manual distribution we do to those role allocation hours will all be remembered. I guess the main enhancement around that as well is you're not only able to use that at an individual action level, you can also use it at the project, milestone, and a number of other places as well. So you'll now find on the project, you can add the Manage Distribution button, and that will give you access to that hours distributor for the entire project. So I'm seeing each of my milestones. I can click into those. I can get down to the individual actions. I can see who's working on it and how that work's been distributed across each day. So breaking down into each thing. So I'm looking at it by action here. I can also toggle over and look at it by role. So if I take a look at what I've been assigned, I'm only working on that one action. If I take a look at Amy, she's working across 3 different actions, and I can see what her allocations are as well. So if I'm making changes at a day level, obviously it's just impacting that one day. If I switch it over and take a look at the week's view, what that's going to do is allow me to distribute that time, and it will distribute it across all of the working days within that week. So for example, if I was to change that to 2, it would distribute those 2 hours across all 5 days within that week, providing all 5 were working days. So you're able to access the hours distributor from the project. You can access it from a milestone. You can access it from the individual action. You're also able to access it from a role record as well. So if I just jump onto a role record here, and again, same thing, accessing that managed distribution. So what I can now see is all of the work that's been assigned to me across all of the different projects. I can drill into the detail, get down to the milestones, get down to the actions, see the individual role allocations, and make adjustments as and when required. It will also show me any PTO that I've got, so any holidays, whether that's public holidays, global holidays, personal leave. I can see all of that there as well. And talking about holidays, you can also use the hours distributor on a holiday as well. So if I take a look at the holidays tab, so I might have a scenario where I'm taking some time off around 4th of July. So I'm actually going to take, so obviously the Monday is going to be 4th of July, so that's a public holiday. I don't need to take that off. But what I'm going to do is book off Friday and Tuesday. So it's personal time off, so I'm just booking it to myself, and it's going to be 2 days and 16 hours. So I'm going to approve that. Now, again, what I can do is access that managed distribution, so I can manage the hours distributor for this holiday. So obviously it's dividing it across the three days, but what I'm saying is I'm taking 8 on Friday. I'm taking no hours on Monday because that's a public holiday, and I'm taking 8 on the Tuesday. So I've manually distributed that across 2 of the 3 days that it's spanning. So I'm going to have a role allocation for these 2 days, accounting for the hours from the holiday. So what we've just covered there is the role forecasting, the hours distributor, the role availability, and what's getting created there underneath the role forecast, underneath the holiday, underneath the action. We're getting those role allocation records. And what we've also introduced is a role actual record as well. So obviously, in terms of looking at what utilization did we get from each person, we have our existing role utilization report that's accessible from the management pad that gives you insight into how many hours did I log against my projects, any PTO from holidays, gives me my overall utilization. But because that data sits in so many disparate objects like holidays, time logs, you're associated to the holiday directly or via a team or as a global holiday, it wasn't really possible to report on that using standard custom Salesforce reports and dashboards. So what we have now introduced is this role actual object. So you still log your time the same way, you still submit your holidays the same way, But all of the records from time logs and holidays will also create a record in the role actual object. So it's really combining holidays and time logs into one object to provide you with the ability to do that granular reporting within Salesforce reports and dashboards. So again, covering off all of those features, role forecasting, hours distribution of actions. What we also have introduced here is a brand new resource planner. So the resource planner is really going to become the main source of information for looking at your capacity planning resource demands. So there's two there's two tabs to this component: the overview tab, which we're on now, and the planner. So the overview basically gives us access to a real quick snapshot of, do we have enough hours available to deliver the work we look like we're going to have to deliver, and subsequently who's over allocated, who's under allocated. So what we can do here is choose what we're looking at. So you can choose to just look at role forecast records. You can just look at actions, or you can look at consider both. Now, obviously, in a scenario where a project might have role forecasts and it might have actions, you don't want to count both of those. So you can choose if there is both, we're going to choose the forecasts, or if it does have both, we're going to choose the actions. So I'm looking at both here, and if a project has both actions and forecasts, I'm choosing to count the allocation records that relate to the role forecasts. So what I'm seeing here is my blue section is my actual committed work that is coming from actions. The orange is my is holidays. So any resources that are going to be out on PTO or global holidays, that's getting taken into account. And then the gray is my forecasted work. So obviously, I've primarily got to worry about the blue stuff, because that's the committed work that we have to deliver. But we've got a really good sales team, and I'm pretty confident they're actually going to sell all of this work. So I can see going into March that I don't quite have enough capacity with my existing resources to deliver all this work if it does get sold. So that might make me think, do we need to speak to people to try and reduce PTO? Do I need to pull in some additional resources? So it's really going to give you an early warning signal to look at your future resource demands. So you can obviously select a time period that you're looking at. It will show each individual person, what their capacity is, how many hours have been allocated to them, and obviously any potential bottlenecks you've got there. You can group that by role, or you can group it by master team. So obviously my consultants well under capacity there. Looks like I've got an issue with my developers, so let's jump into that, and I can see these two resources are over allocated, whereas these do have some capacity. So I could look to go and reallocate some of that work off to them. Looking at the planner, I'm able to see each individual person. And again, what detail they've got, and then I'm either looking at like each individual day and seeing how many hours have been allocated to them. I can drill into the detail of that. I can get a billable, non-billable holiday summary, and then I'm also seeing which projects they're allocated on. So if I need to adjust that, so I can see obviously there's a lot of allocation on this project, so I could click that, go out to the distribution hours distribution, and adjust when that effort is going to be done. So this is all read only, but there's a short click off to either the role forecast component or the hours distributor to adjust that accordingly. So I'm grouping the information by role at the moment. I can toggle that over and show it by project or opportunity. So what I'm now seeing is each individual project or opportunity, and then again I can drill into that and see all of the details. So get down to all of the individual hours and how that's been allocated. So I can see here I've got a project, I've got this resource working on it, and I can see whether it's billable or non-billable effort. So just jumping back on role, again, I can choose what information I'm looking at. I can choose to view the hours. I can choose to view the billable value or the cost value. So again, if I just toggle that over to look at the like the financial figures, I'm getting indication of how much revenue each person is going to be generating, but as a team, how much revenue are we going to be generating as well? And again, I could toggle that over to look at the costs or leave it on the hours. So there's obviously a lot to the resource forecasting functionality. Full details are all included in the release notes. And as a reminder, if this is a feature that you don't need, you just leave it turned off on the console. The checklist board is a Kanban interface, very similar to the whiteboard. Whereas the whiteboard shows you all of your actions as individual cards on the board, the checklist board will show you cards for individual checklist items. So it's accessible similar to the whiteboard. You can access it via a tab on the top, navigation menu. You can also access it via a tab on the project overview. So if I click onto the checklist board, I'm getting access to the board via the filtered down to this one individual project. Making it accessible via the project overview is done via a checkbox on each individual person's role record. So if I just go into edit my page there, so within my project overview settings, I've got a setting there to say, do I want to view the checklist board? So that field will be automatically set to true via an install script when you upgrade, and that will control whether you see the checklist board on the project overview. So in order to provide the Kanban, we have also introduced a new status field on the checklist item object. Previously, it was just a checkbox, and that said it was complete or not. So we've now introduced the status field, same status values as all the project milestone and action. In order to allow you to continue using the complete button and/or the status field. There's some logic being added into the system. So if you set the status value to complete, it will automatically update the checkbox, and vice versa. If you set the complete checkbox to true, it will automatically change the status to complete. And in order to get your existing checklist items updated for you automatically, they're included in the install script when you upgrade. The status will be populated. So if the complete checkbox is true, the status will automatically be set to complete. If it's false and the action it relates to has no hours scheduled against it, then it will be marked as planned. Otherwise, if the action does, if the checklist item does have hours associated with it, it will be marked as in progress. So all the same functionality, you're able to drag and drop cards from one column to the next. You can expand and collapse. You can access chatter, log issues via the issue manager, log time, and access the record. Settings and filters all work exactly the same as the existing whiteboard does. So we've added in a new way of generating billing events on a project, and as part of that, we have provided a new way of specifying, rather than specifying the billing type for the overall project, you can actually specify the billing type for individual milestones within the project. So on the project record, you'll now find a fourth value. For existing customers, you will need to go manually add this value into your pick list field. But obviously previously we had three options of fixed price plus expenses, or time and materials. There's now a fourth option of saying it's controlled on the milestones. And what that means is we can actually specify for each individual milestone whether that will be whether that will be have a billing type of fixed price plus expenses, or time and materials. So you can control at the individual milestone level. So first of all, what I need to do is set my billing type on my project to be controlled on milestones. And the only billing cycle that will support is manual. So what that makes available, so when I've got those settings on my project, what I have is access to this generate button. So I'll just show you already on my milestones. I've already gone through and specified whether they're going to be fixed price plus expenses. So I'll just jump into the milestone there and show you that I've set that to be fixed price. I've got another one for fixed price plus expenses, and then I've got another milestone there where I'm charging time and materials. So just to demonstrate, I can actually have a blend of all three across multiple different milestones on the same project. So because my project is set to controlled on milestones, what that gives me access to is this generate button. So this clicking that button, what that will do is allow me to open up a draft billing event where I can fill in the details. So ultimately putting in my billing event name. So I can indicate it's an invoice, it's draft status. So if I just say progress payment for website. So obviously linking through to the account, the contact, putting in all of the key information around when I'm raising the invoice, when it's due. So what I've got now, individual lines for each milestone. So they will show up based on certain rules, depending on what the billing type is for that individual milestone. So if it's a fixed price milestone, which this one is, it will show up on the as a potential billing event item if the milestone budget is greater than 0. Same with the fixed price plus expenses as well. And then the time and materials billing milestones will show up if if there are any time logs or expenses related to the actions that relate to this milestone that need to be invoiced. So ultimately, if they haven't been invoiced but they are approved, then it will appear here indicating that there are things to invoice for this milestone. So what I can do here for my fixed price milestone, I can put in a description of what it's going to be. I can either say, all right, I've got an overall budget of 5,000. I haven't invoiced anything yet. So what I'm going to say is I actually want to bill 25% of that invoice. Of that budget amount. So that will automatically calculate the amount that's going to be that's going to be invoiced for that. Alternatively, if I don't want to do a percentage, I can manually enter the value. So for my time and materials, I can choose whether I want to automatically add the time logs that need to be invoiced. Do I automatically want to add expenses? And I can actually specify a date range for that as well. So it might be that I only want to include stuff from last month. So if I click on save, what I'm going to get is my billing event. I'll get I'll get at least 3 billing events for my fixed price plus expenses. I will get an additional billing event item if for any expenses that have been related to that milestone. So if I click on save. So if we just take a look now, we've had our billing event generate. If I expand that out, you'll see that I've got a line item for my fixed price milestone of the 25% value. I've got my fixed price plus expenses. That's my progress payment of 2,000 plus some expenses that were relating to that milestone. And then I've got my time and materials milestone expenses and my time and materials milestone time logs. So what what I've been able to do there is actually raise multiple billing event items across multiple different milestones based on the individual billing type scenarios for those individual records. The other feature that we've applied to the billing events is we've provided a more detailed invoice PDF template. So there's a new field available which specifies which template you want to use. So the existing invoice PDF is referred to as the summary template, and that will be selected by default. You now have the option to toggle that over and use the detailed view instead. So if I just save that, and then I'll go through and generate my invoice PDF. So it's still going to have the same header information, the same footer information. The part that's changed is the detailed section in the middle. So previously it would just be relatively high level summary information, whereas now we've got a lot more columns. So we're seeing, the billing event item name, the description, what's the overall budget, how much has already been invoiced, what percentage has already been invoiced as well, what's being invoiced now, and then the amounts. So getting the overall total, and again, you can still include the appendices for any time logs or expenses if you want to as well. There is now a new Lightning component that you can add to the project, milestone, or action page within Lightning Experience that will give you a high-level summary of the status of the actions sitting below that. So the status path component, you can see it here. I'm on a project record, and what it's showing me are are all of the all of the milestones that sit underneath this project, and I can they're color coded based on their status. So if something is planned, it will be gray. If it's in progress, it's blue. If it's complete, it's going to be green. On hold will be red, and cancelled will be white. So obviously what this is doing is just giving me a really quick snapshot of, what are we working on, what's left to do, has anything been complete. So this, as I say, is available at the project, and it will show the milestones. If I click into an individual milestone, I will see the same component, but it's now showing me the information for the actions. So I can see design wireframes is green, which means it's complete. Design UI is blue, so it's in progress, and client approval is gray, which means it's planned. And likewise, if I drill down even further into one of the individual actions, that will show me the same component, but it will show me the status of the individual checklist items. So I can see two are complete and one is in progress. So this is just one component that you can add on to any of your either the project milestone or action pages. So how you do that is so you go through to the Lightning App Builder for that specific record. So I'm obviously on the project page here, and what I'm going to do is down on the left hand side I'm going to search for the component which is called status path. So I just drag that on wherever I want it to appear. So I'm just going to drag it on up here. So that drops the component on there, and it will automatically just look for the information from the related milestones. So simple as that, just drag and drop the component, you save the page, and then that will be added on and visible for any of your projects. So really just giving you a real snapshot summary of what's going on at the level below. We've made a number of enhancements to the options of auto-generating projects from an opportunity. So a couple of new generation methods. So if I show you first of all, so we've added in two new options called product quantity and base template plus product quantity. So you'll need to manually add these two values into your pick list, but once they're available, they'll auto-generate projects for you in a certain way. So product quantity, I mean, they both do the same. Obviously, the base template is just added in addition to the products that have been sold, but the product quantity will actually add the milestone that is associated with the product will be added to the project however many times is required based on the quantity. So in this example, I'm selling 3 units of training. So my milestone that is associated with my training product will be added to the project 3 times. So for example, if I generate my project, so I'll just wait for that to be created. So now if I click through and take a look at that project, so you'll see what's happened is the training milestone has been added 3 times, with each milestone having the same actions. So ultimately, if it's a process that you need to complete for each individual unit of something you've sold, you can add that as many times as required. Another feature is if your project template has budget items, then the project being generated will have those same budget items associated to it as well. And then the other major enhancement is providing you with the ability to add multiple milestones to a product. So previously, so on a product, you're able to specify a milestone template and the project unit. So ultimately, whenever you sell that product, this milestone would be added to the project. But in some situations, you might have more than one milestone that is needed as a result of selling one product. So what you've got the ability to use now is this related object called product milestones. So you can see here that if I ever sell this gold implementation package, it will include these 4 individual milestones. So it's not a case of I'm going to sell these separately. I've bundled them all together into one product, and when I sell that product, I want all 4 of these milestones with all of their actions to be added to the project. So on this example here, so I've sold my gold implementation. So if I generate my project, so just refresh my page to see that that's been created. So click through onto that. And what we can see is all 4 milestones have been added to the project purely as a result of selling that one product. So just to go back to the product, if the fields on the product record contain values, then they will be used. If you want to have a bundle of milestones, you leave this blank and then complete your product milestone records for them instead. We've made a few enhancements to checklist items, and so one of those is the ability to have access to baseline dates at the checklist item level. So we've always had access to baseline dates on the project milestone and action. The same functionality is now available at the individual checklist item as well. So the baseline start date and baseline end date on a checklist item record will be populated as soon as the dates, the start date and end date are populated. And then any changes to the start and end date will then be comparable to the baselines. So on the Gantt chart, if I toggle on my baselines, you'll see that I've now got the ability to compare my actual dates and my baselines on at the checklist item level, as well as projects, milestones, and actions. So we've also made an adjustment to a feature that we rolled out in version 1.56, where we introduced the ability to track scheduled and completed hours at the checklist item level. So when we introduced that feature, what happens is the hours that you put into the checklist items automatically override the hours on the action. So for example, I might have entered 10 hours of scheduled effort on an action. I then go and create two checklist items. Each one has 2 hours of scheduled effort. What that would result in is the 10 hours being replaced on the action with the sum of the 4 hours from those checklists. So some customers do want that override feature. Some customers have asked for it to be disabled. So what we've done here is just introduced a new setting on the control pad within the project automation settings. We've had this this setting, and this will be set to true on install. So if you do want your checklist items to override your action hours, you'll need to come and set this to false. But what this being true will allow you to still keep, so you'll be able to manually put in the hours scheduled on the action, and then you'll still be able to put in your hours for individual checklists without it overriding the action. And the other change we've made is around the automated management of contributors. So previously, it would only automatically create a contributor if the checklist item had hours in either scheduled billable or scheduled non-billable. Now what it will do is it will create a contributor even if the hours are empty or if they're 0. So again, if that feature is false, it will be creating contributors based on you creating checklist items, and it will create the contributor regardless of the value in the hours scheduled fields. We've also added in some new settings to support features on the time log as well. So we have a new setting again on the within the project automation settings. If you turn this setting on, this will prevent people from logging time against a project if they are not assigned to that project as either an action owner, a contributor, or a checklist item owner. So this being true will only allow those people assigned to the project to actually log time to the project. Another setting that has been added in is adjusting, giving you the ability to choose when hours completed from an individual time log are rolled up to the action. So previously, you could log time, and if that time log was not approved, then the hours and the relating financials would not automatically roll up to the action until that time log was approved. What you've got now is the ability to choose whether that happens or not. So if you want to continue having your hours only roll up to the action once the time log is approved, then you leave this setting to false. If you want your hours to automatically roll up to the action regardless of approval status, you would want to set this to true. And what this does is actually, so instead of being driven by the approved field, it will be driven by a new field called a checkbox called roll up to action. So depending on your setting here, that checkbox will get set to true either automatically or only once the time log is approved. So if you are if you are going to disable this, so let's say you are disabling it, which means you're wanting your time logs to roll up immediately, you might have some existing time logs that haven't had the roll up to action field set to true. So you can click this button and that will run through historical time logs, and where they are approved, they'll have the roll up to action field automatically set to true. Prior to running that script, we do recommend that you deactivate any validation rules that might prevent editing of historical time logs to make sure the script can run effectively. The other feature that we've added in is actually allowing you to set a particular project to prevent people from logging time against it. So it's not the same as the other one where you're preventing people who are not assigned to the project from logging time, this is actually saying this project should not have time logged against it. So there's a new setting here. What we've got is, so we've got an existing setting called exclude from timesheet. So if that field is true, that just means you won't see this any actions relating to this project on the timesheet. However, if you don't want people to log time to this at all, you can set this field to true, and as well as hiding the actions from the timesheet, anywhere else where you can log time, so on the utility bar, on the whiteboard, on the action pad, and all the different places, you won't actually be able to log time from there. So you'll basically not see the clock icon anywhere you can log time. And if you try to log time manually, you'll actually receive an error notification saying that time logs are prevented on this particular project. We've made a couple of enhancements to the existing Create Actions page. So Create Actions page is accessible from the project by clicking on the Create Actions button. One of the enhancements is that you're able to add in you're able to add in custom fields. So right now it will show all of these standard fields. If I want to add in some custom fields, I can specify those on the control pad of the Mission Control console. So go to the control pad, go down to the Create Actions page, Settings tile, and then I can choose up to 5 fields. So if I add in any fields, so that's any existing standard fields or any custom fields that I've added into my instance of Mission Control, I can have those displayed on there. So I can also add enter fields when I'm creating my new records. The other feature is, so on the project, so when you are displaying existing records, there's a limit of 100 records. So if your project is more than 100 actions in size, you won't actually be able to access your existing records here. So what we've done is actually made the Create Actions page also accessible from the milestone as well. So if you do have a larger project, you can use the Create Actions page from the milestone, and then you'll be able to edit the actions that relate specifically to that milestone there. Made a few enhancements to the Gantt chart. One of them is around the expand and collapse buttons, which will expand or collapse the records here. So previously, what was happening is in this view where we had project, milestone, action, and checklists, if I was to collapse it once, it would actually collapse the actions and the checklists. So you would only be left viewing the projects and milestones. What we've done is just introduced another click level that is, so if I click it once, it's going to collapse the checklists. If I click it again, it's going to collapse the actions. Then one final click will collapse the milestones. So just allowing you to quickly collapse checklists without collapsing all of the actions as well. The other thing that we've added in is the ability for you to define a description for your milestone deadline. So previously this would say milestone deadline. What you can now do on your milestone is there's a new field being added called milestone deadline name. So if this contains a value, that's what will be displayed on that milestone deadline row of the Gantt chart. If this is empty, it will default back to the milestone deadline description. And the other setting that we've added on is the ability to toggle on and off the progress percentages. So if you don't want those to be visible, you simply click the setting there, and that hides them. If you do want them, you just turn it back on. One of the other things that we've added on the project overview is changing how the information is displayed on the time logs tab. So previously it was a linear timeline. What we've done now is change this into a data table. So if I just load in if I load in my data. So I can see all of the individual time log entries that relate to the particular actions. I can sort by any of these columns. There's actually also a field set that I can choose which columns I have displayed here as well. So the timeline has been replaced with this table, and that table has also been replaced on the customer read-only page as well. Now, to allow you to have different fields visible internally versus what you show on your external client read-only page, there's separate field sets. So there's a field set for the project overview, and there's a field set for the read-only page. Okay, so obviously, hopefully it comes across that we've been super busy. There's been a lot going into this release, so team are very excited to see it getting into the hands of customers. And like always, we look forward to your feedback. So in terms of when is it becoming available? So as I mentioned, it will be available for you to manually go and get from the App Exchange on the 18th of February. On the 26th of February, we will be automatically upgrading all sandbox orgs. And then on the 5th of March, we will be automatically upgrading all production orgs. So really appreciate your patience. Obviously, we know this is a long webinar because there is so much that's gone into this release. And as I say, we're super pumped to get your feedback. So like always, please feel free to reach out with any feedback you've got, and certainly any questions. Please get in touch with our support team. Thank you for your time. Bye.